Hi, everyone. Welcome to Two Film Shorties, a sophisticated lifestyle podcast hosted by us, two creatives living in LA. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Two Film Shorties. I am your host, Jameela.
And I'm your other host, Rhym.
Yay! We're so back. We're back with another episode. We're happy to have you guys back. And this episode, we're talking about chasing dreams. What does that look like? You know, what does that encompass? Is that the right word?
Yes, encompass.
Yeah, that's a big word. Stop. Let me stop. Oh my God, that's such a problem. I'm like addicted to that.
It's okay.
Okay. Sorry. Again, Two Film Shorties. What is this podcast about? Definitely should have started off with that.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's a podcast, a sophisticated lifestyle podcast hosted by us, two creatives living in LA.
Yes. Perfect. So let's jump into it. So what is it like to jump and have faith and to take a chance on your creative endeavors and your dreams?
That is a great question. It is a very complex question because it looks so different for everybody.
Yeah.
But, I think that, you have to start thinking about it and be self-aware when you're going into it, right? Like most of us have passions, we have dreams, aspirations. We just don't know how to get into it.
Yeah.
And so, let's get into that. I want to ask you, why do you think people are afraid? What are the fears that they have before taking a chance?
Oh,
what would you say is one of them?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, we'll start since we are of a certain background. And I think a lot of people actually can relate. Culture and faith can be a big thing about why people are hesitant or fearful to jump into their dreams. For me personally, yes. I grew up, beautiful family. They're amazing. We're very traditional in a sense of, and I mean, it's very true. We got a doctor, we got an engineer. I at one point was going to go to law school. Like it's usually it's a certain type of career choice and that you're supposed to go. Film is not something that you would see being pursued. Being on camera as a Muslim woman or being in this type of industry as a Muslim, it's not really something that's celebrated or accepted. And then it's also the added layer. You can speak for yourself about this as coming from an immigrant background and your parents, and my mother being an immigrant, but also my dad and their generation of, they did the best that they could with the knowledge that they knew. And it's about security. It's about working hard. And these are the jobs that you take to help work and have a family and survive. And those are the jobs are going to pay you. Acting, film, whatever it is behind the scenes.
For you, modeling.
Modeling too is not going to pay your bills, but they come from a good place of these are the type of, you should be a doctor, you should be a lawyer, you should be a business person because this is guaranteed money. This is going to help give you health insurance. This is going to help take care of a future family. Those are the things that also add to the fear, or that's what you're brought up with. So then you just kind of let that sink in. And your parents aren't like, I used to be like, oh, I'm into the arts. And they're like, get out of here with that. What are you talking about?
Yes. Oh my God.
They're like, what is that?
That's so real.
What are you talking about? We don't do that. That's cute.
So real.
You know?
And, for me, it's just like, yes, the immigrant portion, right? Like you just should have a regular job. But not only that, my parents are actually academics. They're both professors, right? My dad's a math professor, pure mathematics. And then my mother is a professor of linguistics, like French, Arabic, and Islamic studies. And so I grew up in academia. And, till this day, my dad's still like, you sure you don't want to get your teaching license just to be safe? And I'm like, come on now.
Safe.
It is. And I respect that. And I appreciate it. It comes from a place of love, right? They are teaching us what they know.
That part.
And so everybody has limitations. And, being a creative, I was naturally an artist. I grew up sketching, painting. I was in an art program in high school. I did dance. I played music and orchestra. So, I was always very artistic and I wanted to take theater in high school. But my dad was always very much like, look, this is all fun. This is a side. This is a hobby. This can never be a career path simply because he didn't envision it. He didn't see it. He didn't know anyone that was pursuing this. And so for them, that was their limitation. You know, they came again from a loving place, but they didn't want me to be a starving artist, right?
Talk about that. Yes.
That was their biggest nightmare. And so it kind of breaks my heart a little bit because I know my dad did theater when he was growing up in Mali as well. And he always used to tell me he did Sartre and all these classical French plays. And he was an actor and he just could not see himself pursue that. Never considered it. And so for me, I wanted to, it was really rough. Yeah, it was really rough kind of veering off and having a nonlinear type of path into filmmaking and being an actor. And like you said, being a Muslim and being in front of the camera, that kind of being a taboo for us women, and trying to break those barriers was something I had to overcome. I had to find in myself the strength to say, no, this is my calling. This is what I feel compelled to do.
Yes.
So that's definitely a big part of it, of the cultural and faith.
Yeah. I'm curious, before we come up with more, or we, what are those fears? With your dad, do you think he had a choice, much of a choice does that make sense, to want to go do more of the arts? Was there a choice in it?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. And specifically also during his time, in Mali, it's the French school system. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that if there are teachers and my mother was the same in Algeria, French school system, gotta love French colonization. There is kind of like a one track. If your teachers see that you have strengths in certain subject matters, you test accordingly, and you test well, they automatically say, this is your path. This is your career. It's kind of like laid out for you.
Okay.
And it's assumed that that's the subject you're going to go into university with if you pass the BAC, which is a big exit exam in high school. So he did not have an option. I don't even know if there were any subjects that were artistic, at that time for him, or if there still is, but that was not something he really, I think, was a reality for him.
Yeah, I think that's the reality, or that is the case for a lot of our parents. It wasn't much of a reality for them to do that. And that's also contributes to why they can't see it. And I always say, my ceiling cap is here and their ceiling cap is here. And it's not a bad way, but it's they can't see where I'm going because they've already met their cap, respectfully. And that's just with anybody. If your ceiling cap's here and someone's trying to tell you something, don't do it, or a case where they don't see it, it's because their ceiling cap's here. You've already surpassed them. And that's okay. It's not a bad thing, but it's just my vision's bigger than what you see for me. And that's really what it comes down to.
It's true. I do think, though, even with that, that's such a good point. I think that that's what our parents want for us, is to dream big and bigger and better than them, right? It's every generation should be moving forward and should be given more freedom and more, bigger dreams, because, otherwise, what was it? What was the point? And for them, I know for me as an immigrant, we all came here together, but for them, they brought us here for bigger opportunities. And that's, even though that's not what they thought was going to be one of my opportunities.
All right. They're what? Wait a minute.
That's not what we were talking about. That is part of that, it's hoping that my kids do better than me and dare to go further and bigger. And so I like to think that that's what I'm doing and I'm honoring, is daring to dream big and bigger than they did.
Daring to be great, baby. Good. Yeah, that's what I think about that too with my parents. I'm y'all just wait on it. You just got to see it. You just got to see it unfold completely. They actually see it now that they were terrified. They were worried. They were concerned, but they came and visited me in Los Angeles and they were like, oh, you're doing all right. I'm yeah. I said, because you raised me. And I said, you should trust how you raised me. You should trust that you instilled all the things. You should trust that you did a good job and my child is going to succeed and be great. And they're like, yeah, you're right. But they're still parents,
It's true.
You can be grown as hell with children and siblings married. They still act like you are their
It's true.
Their whole families and a whole life. And they're still you're my child and you're going to operate how I want you to operate. It's okay. But yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. It's a
major thing. Also, it's funny. My parents still kind of don't know what I do. Which is why my dad still is like, oh, you sure don't want to get that teaching certificate? But, they are comfortable. They are happy that I'm comfortable. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
I kind of have, for the most part, gotten what I've wanted out of my career at this point. And I'm a working regular, director. And like, that's my bread and butter. That's how I make money. And, it's like really fantastic to be able to support yourself doing that. Because that is such a hard thing to do and get to. And acting, kind of folding that in more. But yeah, they don't understand the freelance lifestyle. Like, that's what I am. It's like, I really chose that. That was a conscientious intent to have my breaks when I want them. I can go to Egypt for a month, or I can travel.
Love that.
Or I can go to Montreal for 2 weeks and take the breaks that I want to kind of find, re-energize, balance myself, and find inspiration and beauty and love again. And so before I get back into it, and it's a grind, it's like juggling multiple things at once. And so it's so important for us to take a pause, I think, and regenerate and do what we need to for our mental health and for center ourselves. But it's hard when you're trying to, get the next check. And you don't know where it's going to come from as a freelancer. But I made my peace with that a long time ago. And it's just been fantastic. So yeah, they're at peace now with me. My mom came and visited me at my house, and she was like, okay, alhamdulillah, you have a really lovely life. Yeah. So that's nice. So speaking of fear,
yes.
what would you say is another element of fear for what we do?
Fear of judgment. I think that's a big one. You don't want to be judged for your art, which may be something so personal and intimate for you. And with that too comes with, I think the best way I can give examples is from my life experiences or my fellow folks' life experiences. But I think a thing could be, example, like, say you want to tell a story of something that may have happened to you that I think, coming from my background culturally and Islamically, that may be frowned upon. Now, Islamically, I'm not saying it's the religion, because the religion's also very forgiving and put God first, and that's why we pray and you repent, right? But maybe there's a story that you're trying to tell that a lot of other people can relate to. Or, for example, doing a podcast and you're talking about your life experiences, and it may not be the best thing that you experience. Like me, I've had my share of fun, all right?
I know that's right.
I've had my share of fun. And the things, whatever the activities was or whatever the case is, may be something that can make you feel like shame, or like, you can be like, I go out and party and I go dancing. That's something that you can be judged on. But then you want to talk about it because it may help someone else, because it can be a situation where it brought a horrible experience into your life. And I think, okay, we'll say like this, Muslim girls' upbringing, in a sense of, you go do something that you want to be able to be in a safe space to talk to your parents about, or your community about, or your elders, your aunts, but you don't feel safe enough to have those conversations. And then it festers in you and it sits in you, and it brings a lot of guilt and brings some shame. And it's like, man, all I did was go to a party. You know what I mean? Like, but you want to talk about that story and maybe bring it to life, and maybe it's through a script or a short, and because you know that it can help someone else because they had that experience, but they don't have a place to talk about it because they too are worried about the judgment that's going to come with it and the shame. But it's like you putting yourself out there to say, hey, like, I see you. You're not the only person that's gone through X, Y, and Z, whatever it is. And there's so many of us that's gone through similar situations, especially as women, Black Muslim women. And you want to talk about it. And that's part of your art, but you're afraid of the judgment that's going to come back, and the backlash, and that's
the
scary.
haram police.
The haram police, and that's scary.
Come for us.
Or just like reality, the stories that you want to tell of love, and it doesn't look like the halal ratio of like, we never even touch hands, hold hands, we never go on a date, and it's like someone's like, love us like a love story, and I might want to write a love story, and
it's unrealistic,
and it's unrealistic, and it's like, okay, well, here's this script, or I want to shoot this, and it's a romance. And they're like, what are you doing? You know what I mean?
I know. That Muslim upbringing, like that girl Muslim upbringing is so specific, and it's all about suppression, which, I think is so unhealthy, unrealistic, like I said earlier, because even our parents that are pushing this did not do that for the most part. And so it's hypocritical. And I think that's part of my sense of responsibility. It's to kind of crack that open. Because like you said, I love love. I love great romance stories. I'm such a romantic, and I don't want to say hopeless. I'm hopeful.
Okay, period.
I'm a hopeful romantic. I've had so many loves of my lives.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay. That's okay to showcase, because it's real and it makes us dynamic, and being that that perfect Muslim, and being that, what's the term? The ideal.
The ideal Muslim.
Yeah,
it's like it looks a certain way when it doesn't.
It doesn't. Yeah. And I think, that's part of what I want to do when it comes to these stories that have to do with identity.
Yeah.
Showcase the realities that we all go, experience, and also the challenges we all go through as it pertains to love, as it pertains to work, everything. As it pertains to family, all the things, because we're full dynamic beings. And so to your point, that is part of the fears, the judgment from that.
And the shame that comes with it.
Yeah.
And the guilt that may come from it. And it's like, that's a lot of that stuff is like deep rooted, that you have to unlearn behavior. And that's what you're worried about.
Yeah.
So I think judgment is a major one. And then I think the fear of failure is huge. Because you don't want to put something out there and then it just flops and bombs. And I think that stops a lot of us in doing something. But the reality is like, you have to mess up, baby. You have to hit the ground hard. You know
gotta,
what I mean?
Multiple failures.
What is another fear that you think can hold you back from chasing your dreams?
For me personally, I can definitely relate to the fact of the fear of perfectionism. That is definitely a problem. I'm such a perfectionist, and I'm afraid of putting anything out there that I feel isn't up to par, up to the level I believe I can put out there. And, that can really kind of make me freeze, just stay in that research cycle, stay in that building cycle where I'm not actually creating because I want it to be perfect.
Yes.
And that is so unrealistic. And I think we need to get over that fear of it not being perfect, because it's not realistic. And, it's better to create than not create.
That part.
And be scared of putting something out there that's subpar to your standards. And everybody's standards are different. You know what I mean? And so I definitely learned that going to film festivals. That was a really inspiring aspect as a filmmaker, was going to film festivals. I've been to Sundance. I've been to Telluride. Last year, for the first time, I went to South by Southwest, and kind of just seeing what's out there. What is programmed? What are some of the, what is some of the material out there? And I was like, okay, I can do this. Some of these things are really strong on story, not strong on certain things. And it's different for everybody. And so I think do what you can to kind of again, find inspiration. That is so important to me, is finding moments and ways to be inspired, whether it's going to an art gallery, whether it's going to see a movie, whether it's just getting together with other friends to do writers groups and just do exercises. Whatever the case may be, you want to do something to kind of make you feel inspired enough to push, to get that momentum, to go and just do it. So perfectionism is such a bad disease that I'm still trying to get over.
I know. And it just is, it's procrastination. Yeah. That's what fucks us up.
And what's another one? What's another aspect of fear that you think, an element people are dealing with?
Society expectations.
Ugh.
I think that's a big thing, is the societal expectations of what success looks like, what is success supposed to be, society as far as in your group, your community, your faith, and also this capitalistic society. Yeah, like what that's supposed to look like. And if you're not there to their standard, then it's just like, then what's the point? I think
What do
that's
you
a big
think
one.
is like success in like our field in entertainment world, right? That could be anything. That could be photography, that could be filmmaking, that could be whatever. Like dancing, like what do you think success means in that world?
In that world, or for what I think success is? For what does it mean?
Like the perception of success from others.
Oh, you have made it to Hollywood.
But what does that mean?
What does that mean? You're a multi-millionaire, red carpet walking 24/7. Your films are box office hits, Academy Award winning, and just wealthy. Like,
yes. See, and it's really,
it's so, and
it's
that's what
money.
people think. It's money.
A lot of that is money. Because listen, we all know you can pay to get into certain spaces.
Yeah.
You can pay to get into certain red carpet events, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about wealth. It's about that. And I think that is such a crutch, right? Like that really holds people back from telling the stories they really should be telling.
Yeah.
And doing things out of love,
yeah.
and instead of doing it out of need and necessity for money, right? And that gets us into kind of like a little bit about capitalism.
Oh, yes. Yes.
You know, what do you think, like, because when we're doing that, we're really conforming to capitalism. That's the structure.
Yeah.
Today, baby. Capitalism, you know, you have to make money.
Yeah.
To live a certain way.
Yeah. And we're getting sick and tired of the way the world is operating, especially in the United States. And it's kind of like everyone's kind of talking about a revolution and, you know, what would that look like?
Yes,
and
Rage Against the Machine.
Rage Against the Machines. And I think we're seeing a lot of that now. Or, you know, people are getting tired with how we're moving and operating. And you see that also in our industry with the boycotts or the strikes and all the things that are happening. But what would it look like if we were like to apply like economic other models?
Yeah.
What do you think would work best, especially for folks in the art world? I wonder if that's a conversation.
Yeah, you know, the different economic models, you know, capitalism, socialism, communism, like, I don't know, you learn those things in school. And I think we're in a really pivotal time in history where we can think about what that means. The pandemic, I think, woke a lot of people up to why capitalism is not working. Yeah. I don't know about you, but I was in a lot of conversations with my friends about, oh my God, we're not working anymore.
Yeah.
How can we sustain our lives? Like, what does it mean to not be working anymore?
Yeah.
And so, you know, for me, I'm just like, I think hopefully we're at that conversation can continue going and people can kind of be self-aware and apply those different models. And we can get to a point where we can live in a society where we can make our art and we can live fulfilling and meaningful lives where we don't feel like we're working ourselves literally to death.
Yeah.
To, you know, you work yourself in this country to a heart attack.
Yeah.
And, you know, I come from cultures, luckily, that are so laid back. Like, it's not about your career. It's as much like in the sense that it can't kill you. It's about family life, home life. It's about love for the arts. And so we take a very, you know, laid back view at that. And I think that's so important. But this country, this society,
it's very individualistic, America. It's very individualistic.
Yeah. Instead of the group, the tribe, the whole.
Yeah.
And so, but speaking of that, you know, fear of not feeding into the capitalist machine, not making that money to be successful and wealthy, like that is such a big fear. And I think we need to just start thinking about how you can contribute to a healthier, better society. And basically, yes, that revolution is about creating that new model and doing your part. Every little bit, you know, helps. Even if it's just dialogue and talking about it. Yeah,
talking about it, what it looks like. Is it possible? This is it's
always possible.
Yeah,
babe.
Well, yes. You know, that's the comment. Like, is it possible? It's always possible. And it makes me think about, actually, maybe we don't have to talk about this, but there was a time in this country where it was like the Red Scare and the Cold War and communism. And actually, I think that's how blacklisting actually started in Hollywood. Started with the fear of communism and actors in the Hollywood at that time. And that's where blacklisting began.
Yeah, McCarthyism also is like, they just scared everybody. They scare you into conforming, into not speaking up. And it's so dangerous. And it just makes it all so unjust.
Yeah.
Suppressing voices I'm totally against.
Yeah.
But also, okay, so kind of how do you think we can combat, fear?
Yes, getting back to that, because we'll just go on forever talking about many things.
Like, what are some steps to get over fear, you think? Healthy ways.
Try to identify where the fear is coming from. I think a lot of it is involving you having to do a lot of self-work and self-awareness. Fear is something that comes, from the inside, and it's really trying to dissect, and it's in your subconscious. And so it's really taking the time out to really figure out, when did it start? Say, like, a lot of the times it starts when we're young and we're children, and it takes maybe that one bad experience, or, parents saying, no, you can't do this, or that's not a real lifestyle and that's not a real career. So I think a lot of it is figuring out what those triggers are and actually doing the work around the triggers. And that will, and identifying each one in order to heal it, to help push you forward, because fear has a lot to do with the anxiety. And where does your anxiety come from? Well, anxiety comes from this place. So yeah, it's really just doing that work. And I highly recommend people to go to therapy.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to ask you, how have you done that for yourself personally?
When I started therapy, I had started therapy years back. I felt like I was going through a crisis, because I was transitioning from whether I want to continue. I was about to, again, I'm multi-hyphenate. I mean, even in the corporate world I am. I worked corporate, nonprofit. I've been an entrepreneur. But it was a time when I was working in more of the corporate space, and I was like, this is not fulfilling me. And I was wanting to really get back into the creative space. And I was like, oh, you got to go to therapy. And when I went to therapy is when I started, and having a coach was when I really started to pull back all the layers of the things that were stopping me, why I was afraid to jump, even though everything, my body, my spirit was ready to just leave what I was doing. And I was afraid to leave because I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know where the money was going to come from. This is when my mom would be like, what about the health insurance? You need health insurance. And I'm like, girl, like, relax, But what's crazy is I ended up.
But that's a real fear.
It's a real fear. Like, how am I going to survive? How am I going to contribute to my household? At this point, I'm gone, but it's like my folks may need some more money. And, it's like, what am I going to do? And then, your life has to look a certain way by a certain age. And you got to have this done and completed. And that's what success is, right? So it was like, that's not going to happen with me right off the rip being an actor. I was producing at this time on the side. I was acting on the side. Things were starting to do better for me. And it was like, okay, you have to make a decision. And it was really that fear piece that was holding me back. But therapy helped a lot. And I started at a very years ago. I started years ago, and that's literally helped change my life in a lot of sense. So
listen, therapy is the truth. And
Game
I know
changer.
There's such a stigma in our culture about that. And I mean, just the various cultures. It's the Islamic culture. It's the Arab culture. It's the African culture.
Black.
It's just so crazy. The Black culture in America is just like, they're so anti. I mean, I did therapy years ago in, in like 2016, getting out of some crazy like work situations and things like that. And that was really helpful. And then I kind of did it again during the pandemic, top of it. I think it was like 2020. And that really pushed me, personally, dealing with different relationships and things like that.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to kind of like be brave again in that space, in different ways. So like that just really helped me kind of get to where I am now, where I'm happy, I'm clear-headed, I'm madly in love with my husband, and it's just like all the beautiful things.
Yeah.
And so therapy, can, it's really, really helpful, because we're in our heads and we can't be objective, and you always need like an outsider voice. That's not your family. That's not your friends that don't know you personally, that aren't going to have biased input. And obviously therapists are trained, and, so on and so forth. Yeah.
Major.
So that's really good.
So what about you? What is another way to help you get over fear?
Well, my biggest thing is being Delulu.
Period.
So
we love a Delulu girly. We love a Delulu bae.
Listen, being delusional, I feel like, You have to be.
You have to be.
To be brave, to be on the cusp of doing something that you didn't come from, right? Like, we're not Nepo babies. We don't have our family in Hollywood, like setting us up, sliding us into the best situations. But that's okay. You know, like I have to be delusional. I have to believe in myself, in my stories, in my abilities as an actor, as a performer. I have to have you really have to have so much faith in yourself to the point that, because you need to convince other people, like no matter what, that you can carry a role, that you can write an incredible story that is marketable, and you can make a kick-ass film.
Yep.
And so you really have to believe in yourself, I think, beyond what people see for yourself. And I think being delusional is so important to get over your fears, because, you know, you have to stand in your in the faith of yourself.
Yep.
No one's going to invest in you but yourself. And
That
so
part.
like you would. And I'm my biggest cheerleader. I have to do it, you know, and I know the only difference between me and the other biggest, you know, actor, actress, or filmmaker is my bank account.
1, 2, 3.
They just
4,
have extra
5
zeros
in my bank
you
account.
know, and so for now. And so
period. Yeah.
It's just, you have to really, really be delusional, I think, in what we do.
Yeah.
It is such an abstract field. There is no degree that will get you there. There is, you know, for sure. There is no relationship or networking specifically that will get you to where you want to be. Nothing is set in stone.
Yeah.
In academia, in corporate, in a lot of other spaces, you can matriculate. They're boxes to tick off.
Yeah.
Not for what we do.
Yeah. And you have to be, I was about to say off of that is like, being delusional means that you just have to keep going. And this industry is about years and years of consistency and luck. It is also luck, but it's like, it makes a difference when you don't quit. You know, it's not going to happen tomorrow or like in a year or 6 months. It could be 10 years. It could be 15 years. It's like, once you just accept that and you come into the reality of like, oh, this is a long game. This is a marathon.
Yes.
And I just have to keep pushing in that marathon. It makes a difference.
It's a mixed bag. It's definitely timing. It's believing in yourself, but it's also skills. You got to be working on your craft nonstop.
Yeah.
You're a lifelong student.
Yeah.
And if you're not constantly trying to better yourself in that way, it's just like luck, bettering yourself, being ready when it's going to happen, and then timing, you know, like two of the three are outside of your control.
Yeah.
So you just have to have faith, you know, and being delusional is my favorite.
It's the best. Be delusional, because when you're delusional, you can be confident, and just being confident in yourself is what matters.
Yes. And you take risks. Like, you have to take risks.
And that's, the next thing, right? Would it be like a good way of trying to help navigate fear and getting through that is you just have to take risk. Good or bad, you have to jump. You got to trust yourself when you jump. It's just you and faith, and that's it. And that literally will help you get over the fear, because a lot of times it's a lot of having some movement is better than no movement. And a lot of things that stop people is just jumping in. Oh, I'm not prepared. Whatever. Jump. Oh, I don't have all the tools. Whatever. Jump. Again, with the Delulu piece, but it's like you just got to keep playing into, I'm just going to effing do it. You know what I mean? So I think that's a big thing. It's just jumping in the risk. I think a lot of my life, especially coming out here in Los Angeles, has been, even getting here was just a risk that all the odds were not necessarily in my favor, but I trusted God, and I was like, all right, yeah, we just gonna jump. And then, and it was like, whatever I was afraid of, either it was going to happen or it wasn't going to happen. But wouldn't I rather follow through and see through it? Like, it's like the saying, what if it does work out? What if everything works out? Because I think that's the fear piece, is like, oh, I don't know if it's going to work out if I do this. But what if it does work out? So it's jumping with that, and just jumping and taking the risk is a big thing to help you overcome fear.
And also kind of coming from a place of, for me, what's big is gratitude, right? Like, I'm so grateful that I live in a place where I can make money, right? Like, my background and where I come from in my village, it's like I didn't have constant running water and electricity. So kind of recentering myself, trying to be as grounded as possible in this pursuit of happiness and success, is remembering where I started, and then being like, wow, you know, alhamdulillah, I'm really grateful that I have electricity, a roof over my head, constant running clean water. I have a car and I can get around. And I think if you really think about gratitude and come from a place of that as often as you can, you're grateful for what you have, you know, and for you, success will look a little different. And I do feel successful, you know, alhamdulillah. I feel like having the ability to make the art, to shoot my short films and get to play with my friends, and all that is really what I've been dreaming about since I was a kid. So gratitude, what, you know, not being a perfectionist. And then let me ask you this, you know, like, the other thing also is perfectionist part is like not overanalyzing to the point that it's debilitating and getting ahead of yourself with things. Oh my God, I'm such an overanalyzer. I forget what that Myers-Briggs like setup was a few years ago. It was like super popular. Now there's like attachment styles and all this other stuff.
All the things.
I can't keep up with all the quizzes, but I remember my Myers-Briggs was something like, it had a lot to do with being like internal and overanalyzing, because I overanalyze everything. And I know a lot of it has to do with my academic background, with my parents being academics. It's like researching things to death, overthinking things, doubting yourself. And I try not to get ahead of myself. I have a tendency to get ahead of myself, which is part of being Delulu. So there's a plus and minus to that. But, you know, it's like I have to really, really take a pause, take stock, breathe, and then move forward with just what's around me. I mean, generally, I'm a very logical person, and I used to be a little too logical, actually. But I stepped away from that because you can't find joy if you're too logical. So I try to, and then in the arts field, you really have to be open-minded and be open to abstract things. So for me, it's like being logical was no longer something I could be. Overanalyzing, I had to stop it. It's still an exercise I do today. And then, you know, what do you think is something else that we can do to kind of get over and that fear and take a risk?
Definitely surrounding yourself with people who are like-minded in a sense, and who are good at what they do or successful in the craft in whatever way success looks like for you. I think that makes a huge difference, because that allows you to like, it motivates you and inspires you. Like, you motivate me and inspire me every day. So serious, because it's just like, I need that, and people need that. And I think that helps a lot when it comes to fear and like believing that I too am a Delulu girly. But again, sometimes things like creep in where the imposter syndrome kicks in, and then but when you are around folks who support you and want to see you win and allows you the space to make mess ups in your work, or, you know, make mistakes, or be like, give great feedback, it makes a huge difference. And I think that helps when you have your community and you have your tribe to help you through those moments. That's major. And that helps a lot when it comes to overcoming fear. And they're reminding you like, hey, you're not alone. There's so many of us who have these same struggles, but we're here and we support you. And it's like, put it out there. Because I see you. And it's like, we're going to watch it. We're going to do it. You know what I mean? I think that's a big, big piece, especially out here in Los Angeles, and collaborating with other people who work in film and the arts is such a major hit. So yeah, I think that's actually helped me a lot personally, is being able to work with amazing people and, like you said, play, you know, remembering that it's fun. And, you know, it's like, yeah, you're trying to get to the ultimate goal, but it's like, it should be fun, and you should be doing what people you love and people you can just laugh with while you're doing the work. You know what I mean? And they give honest feedback, and you know, it comes from a genuine place, even if it can be I don't want to say harsh, but it's like a very like a critique. But I take critique really, really well anyways. I think that's because my dad was pushing me at like the age of 4 in sports, but giving that honest feedback, and you know, it comes from a place of love, and I want to see you win. And I think that's a big piece of it.
It is. Oh my God, you're so right. You know, surrounding yourself with like-minded or not people who are just as driven, because that's a big thing for me. Is I am such a driven person. I have a lot of ambition, and I always have since I was a kid. I can't explain it. It's like I always had this like fire in me that I was like, I'm going to change the world.
Yeah.
It's inevitable.
Same.
And so, you know, I love being around people like that, doers. And It's so easy. And what I say about the critiques is like, look, it's easy to critique. People that don't do will critique.
Mm-hmm.
They have something to say. But until you do it and until you're in that seat, you know, you can
Yeah.
take several seats.
Yeah.
And
That part.
and being able to kind of like just block out that noise, because
Yeah.
all it is noise.
Yeah.
And surrounding yourself with people, because you're very motivational to me. I mean,
Aw.
like, real talk, you're the reason we're doing this podcast. You know, I was like, who wants to hear me talk? Who cares?
Everyone wants to hear me talk.
And
So
I didn't want
much
to
knowledge. Mashallah.
I don't want to put my business out there. I was like, oh my God. But, you know, I think a lot of our conversation through the year has been insightful to me. And I've learned so much more about myself, and being willing to take recognition and flowers and accepting that I'm part of, you know, a collective of people that are doing great things, and they look to me sometimes for answers, and I'm like, what?
You're like, and I'm out here trying to figure it out too.
I'm trying to figure it out, yo. I don't got the answers. But knowing that we're all trying to figure it out together, you know, there's such comfort in that.
Yeah.
And comfort in beautiful souls. People are just good-hearted.
That part.
Honestly, I've been so burnt in the past with horrible human beings that are trying to make it in this industry. And shout out, listen, do not sell your soul. Do not sell your soul for this. It is not worth it. Your integrity, your character.
Do you see what's happening right now? Like, don't sell your soul. You have one life. It's so short.
That we know of. And so, yeah, it's just kind of like really important to me to I gravitate towards, I think, people with light and love, and just wanting to be good people while we're figuring it out together.
Yeah.
And that's such a beautiful bond that I feel like I have with you, alhamdulillah, you know, and meeting more people and being discerning about your circle. That's the other thing, is like, you know, I think so many of us feel like, oh, we're cool, we appreciate each other, that's enough. It's not enough. You have to be with people that are cool, good-hearted, but also doing something.
Yeah.
You have to be a doer. Otherwise, I don't know about you, but I'm kind of easily influenced when it comes to energies.
Yeah.
I really pick up on other people's energies.
Same.
And I don't like being around people that have anxiety, because it rubs off on me.
Yes.
I really love being around doers, movers, and shakers. And, you know, I've been like that. I can kind of like light my own fire in that way.
Yeah.
But I also need people around me that are like that, doers, that are figuring it out, you know, because nothing's perfect. But and people that are trying to, you know, who have like a specific vision. You sent me a fantastic video. You DM'd me, was it yesterday or the day before? It was like an Oprah one.
Yeah.
Oprah always be dropping those
Oprah be
gems.
dropping gems, man. You know, I did a book report. I was like such a big fan of Oprah. I did like a book report, and it was like, come as the person you want to be. I mean, I don't want to be Oprah now, but I want to be my own person, of course. But it was like third grade. I love me, because
So
I was watching the Oprah show at like 8 years old.
cute.
Like, what you watching this for? You know, come on for school. Anyways, that's besides the point. But yes, I remember the Oprah video. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's talking about, you know, being around people that do. I think the video had to do with like, you know, you've interviewed so many successful folks. What have you noticed that they do that's different? And she was like, you know, she basically said they, no matter what, go out there and they do that. And they surround themselves with people that feel the same.
Yeah. And I can attest to that. Like when I moved to Los Angeles, it was a major shift on how I moved. I've also been a very driven, motivated person. I'm very ambitious. And I'm also a feeler on energy. I'm an empath. I'm such an empath.
You are.
And I have to work very hard on my boundaries with that. But I also consume a lot of that energy. And I noticed when I got to LA, I was very intentional. I'm still intentional about making relationships and building connections with people. And I said, from here on out, you're going to be very intentional about who you let into your life and who you let into your circle and what kind of energy you want to bring into your circle and your life. And I noticed that change when I came out here and I was surrounding myself more with you guys. And I was like, oh, I felt a total shift in how I wanted to move in the world, or like reaffirming that it is possible and it's okay that I hope if it makes sense without being like in a like negative, but I was, everyone at some point in time was at a different level than where I was. And I was at a level where I was hungry for more and I needed that energy around me. Whereas whatever their hunger was has been either filled, or their view of success, or whatever their career they were good with, or still trying to figure things out, or like you said, anxious, depressed all the time. Like, I don't need none of that energy around me if I'm trying to go to where I need to go. And now I just have set strong boundaries in that space of, if you're going to come with me with this information, like I can only receive so much of it. And then I got to keep it pushing. You know what I mean?
Yep. It's part of our diet.
Yeah.
Right? Our diet isn't just what we eat.
Mm-hmm.
It's what we consume when we're not working.
Yep.
It is also who we surround ourselves with.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think having a clean diet in general has always been something I've been more or less pretty good at, you know? And but friends, you know, especially in the industry, it's like I've never had issues with just friends in general, but in the industry, there's something about it. I think it's the desperation. Speaking of, I do not befriend people that are desperate. That is not something I do.
So real.
Being able to read people early on was a lesson for me, because I think desperate people more often than not make bad decisions. So whatever you can do to not make yourself desperate, you need to do, because I do not click with desperate people. People that are so cutthroat in the industry they may rise to the top fast, but guess what? Compromise morals, not great characters, you know, screw people left and right. And so I learned the hard way to be around people that are not desperate.
When did it click for you, without saying like exactly when it happened, but like when was it like that moment of it registered? Like, did you have to get burned 10, 20 times? Or was it like after like the first 3 times you were like, okay, that's a wrap? Because some people got to go through 15, 20 times, but it was like maybe 1 or 2 times you were like, oh, I see it now. Was it when you moved to LA, maybe that first year, 2, 3 years?
No, this was instant. It was a one instant. I was like in a friend group. We were all filmmakers. And I just was like, yes, I want everybody to win. This is fantastic. And then there was one person that really like, I think she just too desperate. And I didn't do my due diligence to really figure out who, like, I think previous to our friendship, like who she was. And she just backstabbed me and lied about me and was really like so cruel.
Oh, yeah.
And the amount of energy and love and attention that I put into that friendship that I thought was a sisterhood was such a wake up call. I was like, wow, like she went out of her way to just really make me look bad to our friend group and tell lies and do all these things. And for me, that was a wake-up call where I was like, oh, I have to be careful about who I pour into. There needs to be a waiting period, like in dating, where you figure out
I like that,
who the hell is this person? Because it's all fun and games when things are fun and light, but when they start getting really competitive and feeling like they need to put you down to get up, then that's when you start seeing true colors. And I saw that happen, and I just was like, wow. And what was even more painful was that it wasn't even just that she did that as a backstabber, but it was like the rest of the group kind of went along
fed
with
into
it
that
and didn't even question and go, wait a minute, I know Rhym has been like a ride or die for me. Let me take a pause and be like, is this even true? Let me get Rhym's side, or let me talk to her.
Yeah.
Because she's clearly proven her friendship. That's the other thing. You need to prove your friendships to people. Love needs to be proven in any format. Friends, family, you're romantic. And they didn't do that.
Yeah.
And it just was like, oh, y'all are all like this. Y'all are so competitive. You do not truly value friendship and sisterhood. Because if you did, you would say, wait a minute. Let me find out more. Because this doesn't line up with the person that I know. And so
that's a good way to sense.
You have to kind of like, and then it was kind of scrapping that and starting from scratch and going and being extremely diligent in who you choose to be around. Watch them in certain situations. And it's so funny because I've had multiple red flags with this specific person in the past, but I was like you know, I'm a loving, forgiving person. I just was like, oh, well, I mean, I'm not competitive. I never have been. Alhamdulillah, I've never been that competitive person. I'm just that person. I'm like, you know, you want it, take it. I don't even care. It's not that deep. Because I don't care, because I can always get whatever.
What's for you will be. What's for you will be.
And I come from an abundance aspect.
Period.
Okay. My spirit is about abundance. I will forever be successful and happy and filled with joy no matter what. And no one's going to quell that. And I think that because I've always felt that way, I was not a competitive person.
Yeah.
Not about men, not about work, not about like any resources. I don't care.
Yeah.
God's got me. And I actually walk in that faith.
Oh, walk in it. Walk in it and believe it.
You know, where's
big takeaway.
Be people. So again, I have to have friends of mine that have faith. Because when you don't truly have faith, they can say they have faith. But guess what? When you're acting this kind of cutthroaty, shady, all this stuff, you don't have faith.
Yeah.
You
When
don't
things
believe in
get
it.
shaky, how are you behaving and acting? And you know, a good thing, a takeaway advice for people is when situations like that happen and the other friend doesn't even bother to gather your side of the story. They've already made their decision a long time ago and they already had a particular view of you anyway. So that's a good takeaway when you're questioning people in a sense of like, oh, what about my friend? Like, why didn't they take the time? They already had a decision. They already had a view of you and they already made that decision a long time ago and they already saw you in that light. So that's a good takeaway when situations like that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they don't even care enough about the relationship. That's the other big thing is like, if you pour a lot of love, I mean, I help these people move.
Yeah.
They've lived with me.
Yeah.
Like I've really like given my all. And so for them to kind of just like, be like, oh, no, it's fine. I'm not even going to do the due diligence. That's okay. Then don't say that friendship and sisterhood matters to you as much as you claim to. And that's okay. It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
I think we all have to kind of be realistic and self-aware about ourselves of like priorities and what's important. And if it's for you, it's like career, I have to like push through everybody, walk over everybody. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. Like, again, step into your truth, whatever that is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Stand on it. Oh, wow. That's
10 toes
10
down.
toes down, baby. Yeah, that's heavy.
I know. But you know, like being around beautiful people, like you would be shocked what you can accomplish. Like we alone in a year of being besties.
Bestie
y'all
girl,
don't even
bestie
know.
Girl. Yeah,
Y'all don't even
we've
know.
accomplished a lot.
I know. Alhamdulillah, we have.
Oh my, like that's, and we should, you know, really applaud, like take, mashallah, like applaud self in a sense of like, yeah, it's done a lot. And like you said, it takes genuine, loving sisterhood, you know what I mean? And our brotherhood with our folks, because we got our other brother up in the mix. And it's just like, yeah, we did accomplish a lot. It makes such a huge difference in the energy. Yeah.
Now I'm such a go-go person. I don't stop and look back and reflect. And you're really good about that and reminding me to do that because I think sometimes I have to stop. We both have to stop and go, oh my God, we did do a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Because for me, I used to be that where it was just like, I don't reflect, but when therapy helped me a lot with that, coaching helped me a lot with that because I could be very hard on myself. I critique myself too much. I was at a point where it was like, I'm so hard on myself. I didn't even celebrate the wins that I had. And it's like, it got to a point where it was harming my mental health, you know what I mean? And when my therapist helped me bring that to realization, and even some of my good girlfriends, they'd be like, Jameela, but you did this and you did this. And whatever it was, like even when I was in school, whether I was in sports, my careers of whatever I did, it was like, no, those are major accomplishments and you should celebrate that. But because I would be very hard on myself, I didn't see it. And so I do make a genuine effort now to like pause and look at that. And so, yeah, I'm glad that like it can show with you guys and with you and like, let's take a second. Like, you that girl. Like, wait a minute. You that big. You know what I mean? You've done so much. It's like, no, you're doing great. What's her name? Chris. You're doing great, sweetie. Kris Kardashian or Kris Jenner. Sorry, my bad. You're doing great, sweetie. Have you seen that clip?
Yes.
It's okay. Like you're doing great, but yeah, no, that's real. That's true.
Yeah, and see, you're such a great hype woman, and I think like we all need to do that for each other because I do love giving my friends their flowers.
Yeah, same.
Right? Because like I appreciate and I like to call that out because I think it's so important. You don't want to wait until it's too late, you know? It's too late to tell people you appreciate them and how much they mean to you and the changes, you know, the big things they've done in your life.
Don't make me cry.
It's true, you know? And so like for you to do that for me too, it's just like I'm so not used to the reciprocity that I really now it's like, oh, it's a two-way street. It's reciprocity, like friendship.
Pour into each other, baby.
You know?
It's a relationship. You know, it's another relationship. You got to pour into each other. That's the ones that thrive.
It's true.
And that's why I be at your house all the time.
My
3-4 days a week. Yes, they adopted me.
We adopted Jameela. Are you kidding? Yeah, just all love and again, same vibrational frequency and you know, and being discerning. Like I don't need I don't need a lot of friends. I think that's the other thing is quality over quantity. That's really big to me for everything, but also more so recently with like people you surround yourself with, acquaintances, friends, besties, like, you know, quality over quantity.
Yeah, I'm realizing that now. Yeah. I'm such an extrovert. And
you are.
I think I've calmed down a lot though. Like you don't even know before. Even when I met Rhym, I was like, like in her face, like, yeah, girl. And Rhym's like, She's like, yeah. And I'm just like high energy. But now I was like, you're stuck with me. But I was a next level extrovert. But I think COVID like calmed me down and just, you know, life and maturing and things like that. But I always had a lot of friends, poor boundaries. But, you know, but the older I'm getting or just the wiser, you know, because life is life. You're going to constantly evolve. Being mindful, again, like you said, the quality over quantity and protecting that and making sure that you really invest in that and be intentional about that again, about that, the type of energies in your space. And you don't need a lot of folks. You can have acquaintances, you can have colleagues. It's all love, but it's like everyone has a life, wherever area of their life, whether it's family, career, trying to figure out their stuff, they're going through some whatever struggle. It's being respectful and mindful of that too. But it's like everyone does not have to be your friend.
Absolutely.
And it's a mutual understanding. And it's like, I see you when I see you, and it's great. And you don't have to put these unrealistic expectations and investment in some of the connections. But your core group, it can be your core group, and you constantly pour into that connection. You pour into you still interact, I would hope, reciprocity with colleagues and reciprocity with acquaintances, of course. Like you still want them to be good people, but yeah, your core crew, like, yeah, it doesn't have to be a lot. And that was something I've learned, especially moving out here, is like, yeah, you don't need a lot of people. And then just moving showed me a lot about friendships and realizing, girl, you had, like moving, a relationship, like showed me how many, like, being very mindful about the word friend. Everyone was a friend. Everyone's not your friend.
Yes. Oh my God. That is so real. Not everyone is your friend.
Not everyone's your friend. I think I would throw the word friend around too loosely, best friend around too loosely. And it's like, no, because when I moved, I noticed the people who were checking on me, and I was checking on them, and who really was making sure that I was okay and transitioning with the things in my life that was taking place at that time. And then now I realize, like, some of y'all are just, hang out, good time people. Some people are just
ain't nothing wrong with that.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. This is the person you go to call to go out for brunch and have a good time, chat on a surface level, ha kiki, talk about maybe a relationship, talk about this, where you at. And then some people are, nah, this is my family. This is like the core. This is like, we talk, we get deep. And that's something I had to be okay with, and accepting that everyone's not at the same level. But yeah, moving tells you a lot. Moving, babies,
yes,
and marriage will show you who your friends are.
Funerals too. All the
Weddings,
big life things.
They'll show you about who your friends are. So,
it's true. Yeah. Career more than anything too. God.
That's a thing too with friends. I'm in this. Have you ever experienced where you're transitioning in your career, or you're getting more focused in on your career, and it's shifted some of your friendship dynamics?
Absolutely.
With people?
Absolutely. Sadly, I've had a couple of friends fall off because, for whatever the case may be, I'm able to, alhamdulillah, get opportunities that they felt they should have gotten, or, and so whereas I'm such a friend that, if I really love you and care about you, I'm constantly championing you.
Yeah.
And I want that in return. And I may not have gotten that, or, there's like a weird vibe, and then therefore it's like, I don't really trust you anymore. Because trust is big. You have to trust your friends. And for me, it's like, for you to be in my inner circle that's very tiny, I have to feel like I trust you.
Sacred, bro.
So when you break that trust, it's kind of like, listen, I wish you well. I love you. I appreciate you still, but from afar.
Yeah.
And we have to remember there are circles, right? There's like the inner circle, the intermediate, the wider circle, and friends can oscillate between those in and out. You can constantly be moved and shifted around, and you have to be okay with that. And I think, but to your point, it's like when you are getting work opportunities that they feel entitled to, or they feel some type of way, because you got that opportunity, you're gonna fall off. They're gonna fall off, and your circles are gonna get smaller.
And I think just like when you make the major, my experience of that with work or having a different energy when it comes to grind and work, and not allowing yourself to be victim all the time, shifts the dynamics. And then,
ooh, that's so good. Victimizing.
I just cannot be with the victim mindset, bro. Like, but you don't realize how much you're playing into it if you're just constantly around people who's in that mess. It's like, I don't even have a tolerance for that shit anymore. Excuse my French. But there was another point that I was trying to make, or bring up a thing that I noticed for me was, with your success or, getting opportunities, how have friends changed?
And
just moving. And that moving is a success piece too, because if I'm being real, and I've come to accepting of this, is like just taking a jump to change my life and say, I'm choosing me, and I want more from my life. I don't want to stay where I'm at. And that means also moving to a new city and not being afraid. I mean, I was terrified. I was crying on the plane moving. Okay. I was crying for a lot of reasons, but I was crying because of the things, that being anxious about moving, but the excitement, but the fear. I noticed that when other people don't do that for themselves, they see you doing these things that they wish that they can do. And it may not be in a nasty space of envy or, they feel a certain type of way, but I noticed that shift with some of my friendships when I decided to and I couldn't grasp it or understand it for a while, but it was like, oh, it's because you're doing things that they wish that they could do.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to get to. It's like you're doing things that they wish they can do, but they're not doing it.
And it's so funny because, I really relate to that a lot, because I don't understand it, because that's not how I think.
Yeah.
That's not how we process information, and that's not how we see our friends. And so it's so weird because you just assume everyone thinks like you do, right? With the same intentions.
Yes. Yep. And then it's like recognizing too that it's not always like they're bad people in a negative space, but they're just in different phases and levels of their life that they're trying to navigate and heal from. I think a big aha moment for me was putting unrealistic expectations on friendships and my friends, in a sense of, I learned this very on in therapy. It was like a big thing where, say, for example, I started therapy before really and I think I was the first one to really go to therapy in my friend circles. Because I had different pocket of friend circles, because again, I was a little Miss Social Butterfly, but I was going to therapy, and I used to be like, y'all need to get into therapy. It's the best. Changed my life. And I couldn't for the life of me understand why some of them were not going to therapy. And then I'd be like, what is wrong? Like, this can literally help you be a better person, blah, 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 or help you heal the trauma and heal the wounds. And my therapist had to be real and was like, listen, like and I had a real conversation with one of my friends. It's like, yo, everybody's not at that point in their life. They have some trauma that is so deeply effed up in their life that they're not ready to possibly open that door yet, or they're not ready. Their level of anxiety is not the same level that you're at, where you now can take that step. They still have a lot. They had whatever background situations that they had. And that was a big aha click for me. And I was like, oh, I get it now. So the same thing, I try to be understanding and have empathy when it comes to like people like me making these leaps in my life or doing these changes, and they're just struggling with that. And it has nothing to do with me, but it's like having knowledge, acknowledging and having understanding and empathy for where they're at in their lives. But that don't mean I'm going to stop my grind and move and, and not take it personal is really what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, you can wish them well from afar.
Yeah.
That's what I believe. I believe you do not need to have access to me in my life.
Yeah.
So not everyone needs access to you.
Yeah.
That is a privilege.
Yeah.
And I think that, that's okay. It's all love still. It's just like, I wish you the best and I hope you can get to that point for yourself.
Yeah.
But daring to want better for yourself for some reason, it triggers others.
Yes.
It makes them question themselves. And like you said, people don't want to do that. They don't want to go through that or jump over that hurdle. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
All right.
Wrapping it up. We were just going. It just got deeper than the fears. Any final thoughts?
Yeah. So talking about final thoughts artistically, was there something that inspired you recently that you want to talk about? Whether it's an artist, a poem, lyrics, something.
Oh, geez.
Movie.
Show. You just be in the moment, and then music makes me cry so much, bro. J-Lo. I know, J-Lo. Y'all, listen, I watched the J-Lo documentary. And we watched it together. I was like, I'll keep right, because Rhym and I be having our little date movie night. So we watched the J-Lo documentary. Rhym was like, you gotta watch it. And I was like, no, I haven't seen it. I know J-Lo came out with the documentary and she also came out with the film, but Rhym was like, it's so inspiring and moving. So we watched it. So we watched Miss Jenny from the Block. And listen, J-Lo was dropping gems in her documentary, and I applaud her for taking the leap of faith and not being afraid, even though she even talked about, this was what part that really stood out to me was when she was like, she would do it scared. I can't remember exactly, but it was like, she's like, I was doing it scared. She's like, people just didn't know I was doing it scared. I was just doing it anyway, but I was like terrified. And that was a big thing where it's like, but you see her, and it's like she's on point all the time. But she was actually like terrified to do the things, like to make the jumps. And that stood out to me a lot. And I also applaud her for just saying, I'm going to do this. And she put her own money into creating. And she was like, good or bad, whatever people think about it, if they like it, if they don't like it, if they love it, whatever, I'm going to do it and I'm going to follow through and see it through because this is what's meaningful to me and this is what my story is and this is my art and I want to get it out there and I'm doing it for me, not for everyone else. And I was like, wow. And Miss J-Lo, the way you was dancing and keeping up, as she was saying, with the younger folks, I said, baby, you still doing it better than the young folks, okay? But that was so good. It was very inspiring. She had a lot of gems and just to see that even though she was getting some no's, even though there were people who were saying, why would you put this out there? And, everyone, you always have these, like, don't share this. And I'm worried. She was like, nope, I'm going to share my love for my man. I want to share my love for what I want to do. And I'm going to come up with this and put it out there. So yeah, that was really, really great. It was, what was the name of the documentary?
So the documentary is called The Greatest Love Story Never Told. Mm-hmm. But
the film is,
I think it's This Is Me Now or something like that. I'm not sure. Me now. And you listen, people are dragging her right now on the internet and it is what it is.
But they dragging her, but are you doing it?
Thank you.
J-Lo is Delulu.
She is.
And you have, like, again, you got to be a certain level of delusional to make it. Y'all dragging her, but y'all would not do damn near any of the stuff that she's doing.
And I will say, what I loved about the documentary was, yes, it was really about the impetus for her wanting to do this and make this movie and the documentary is because she was so inspired by love, by finding love again, and that she wanted to make this. And I think that is so beautiful. I think that love really inspires us in ways we don't realize. And it was almost like, I think she said even in her documentary, she just kind of woke up out of a slumber. And like, I feel that resonated with me too in my relationship. And I just was like, wow, I never thought about how much being in love can motivate you to do certain things, positive things, not just destructive things. I do not believe love is about destruction. I think true love is about being motivated to want to be better, to challenge you, to see somebody that you admire and go, oh my God, I want to be a better person for that person and for me. So,
and can we note how her man supported her? Y'all need to get men who support you and choose you and believes in you. Like Ben was over there, ride or die.
Listen,
he was holding his woman down and was like,
oh, I thought you were talking about me, girl. What?
Your man too. Mashallah. Listen, get you one that loves you and adores you and supports you and sees you. They are a team.
Yep.
And they are a unit. And I love, mashallah, seeing it. It's like they know each other off, like they can just, it's like they click. Yep. It's like he knows what she's thinking. She knows what he's thinking. They know it's a unit. It's a team. Get you somebody. You need to find a husband or a wife that gets you like these two get each other, mashallah. Yes. It's a team, a unit.
And yeah, like those are
love.
those are the ramifications of being in love. I think that people don't want to see. It's like love can be scary. Yes. Oh my God, so scary. But it's also beautiful. And it's actually 10 times more worth it than you realize. And so anyways, I just love that about J-Lo. And you know what? Like all the gems she dropped about work, her ethic. I mean, you see her train. You see her miss out on things and sacrifice for her dream. And I think that was really beautiful to watch. So check it out if you get a chance. Thank you for tuning in. It was really lovely to share our stories and our thoughts with you.
We appreciate you for tuning in to Two Film Shorties. Follow us on our social, Two Film Shorties on TikTok. And also follow us on our personal socials, Jameela.Winters.
And I am Rhym, IAMRHYM.
Yes. And we'll see you guys next week. Tune in for our next episode. What are we going to be talking about?
We're going to be discussing Black Palestinian solidarity, serious stuff.
Let's get real. We hope that you can enjoy it though. So see y'all next time. Bye.